If you love Cyberpunk 2077 on your Switch 2, here are 25 games that hit that same neon-soaked, story-driven, open-world RPG feeling without costing a fortune. Starting with number 1, Ghostrunner is one of the most visually intense Cyberpunk games you can play on Nintendo hardware right now. You are a blade-wielding cyber ninja running up walls, slashing through enemies in a single hit, and dying just as fast if you make one wrong move. The world is a crumbling megacity tower, and the combat feels like a rhythm game crossed with a first-person slasher. It is fast, stylish, and deeply satisfying once it clicks. Coming in at number 2, Hades 2 is one of the biggest Switch 2 releases of 2025, and it absolutely lives up to the hype. You play as Melano, a witch of the underworld battling through gorgeous handcrafted biomes with tight action combat and a story that unfolds naturally through hundreds of small interactions between runs. The roguelite loop is endlessly addictive, and the writing is consistently brilliant from beginning to end. Number 3 is Transistor, and if you want something that feels like a short, beautifully crafted sci-fi film, this is it. You play as Red, a singer in a futuristic city who picks up a talking sword and unravels a corporate conspiracy. The turn-based combat system is genuinely inventive, letting you pause time mid-fight to plan your actions. The art, the music, and the atmosphere are all absolutely top tier for this price range. Right at the number 4 spot, Ruiner drops you into a brutal, neon-drenched dystopia in the year 2091, where you are a cyborg on a desperate mission to save your brother. The isometric action combat is relentless and stylish in equal measure, encouraging you to dash, hack, and chain abilities in ways that feel chaotic but controlled. It is one of the most visually striking Cyberpunk games on the eShop and regularly goes on sale for next to nothing. Game number 5 is VA11 Cyberpunk Bartender Action, which is unlike anything else on this list. You play as a bartender in a rain-soaked dystopian city, mixing drinks and listening to your customers unpack their lives in a world run by megacorporations. There is no combat here. It is entirely dialogue-driven, completely charming, and surprisingly emotional. If you loved the world-building side of Cyberpunk 2077 more than the shooting, this one is essential. Taking the number 6 slot, Shadowrun Returns brings classic turn-based tactical RPG gameplay into a fully realized cyberpunk fantasy city set in a rain-soaked 2054 Seattle. The blend of magic and technology sounds odd, but works completely, and the noir murder mystery that drives the story pulls you in fast. Character building is deep and meaningful, and the whole thing is available on the eShop at a price that makes it an easy pickup. Sitting at number 7, Hades is the game that made Supergiant a household name in the roguelite space, and it still holds up as one of the best games available on Switch in any genre. You battle out of the underworld run after run, collecting upgrades, building relationships with gods, and slowly piecing together a layered story about a deeply dysfunctional divine family. Every run feels different, and every conversation adds something new. Game number 8 is Disco Elysium: The Final Cut, which is without question one of the most original RPGs ever made. You play as a detective with complete amnesia, trying to solve a murder in a strange, politically fractured city that feels entirely unlike anything else in gaming. Every skill in your character becomes a voice in your head arguing about what to do next. It is deeply weird, extremely funny, and genuinely one of a kind. Landing at number 9, Neon Abyss is a roguelite shooter that captures that frantic, neon-soaked energy Cyberpunk 2077 fans tend to love. You descend through procedurally generated dungeons, picking up absurd weapon combinations and passive upgrades that stack in increasingly chaotic ways. The running gun gameplay is tight and punchy. Mini-games between combat rooms break up the action nicely, and the replayability is enormous for what is a very affordable eShop price. Number 10 on the list is Observer, a psychological horror adventure set in 2084, where you play as a neural detective who can hack directly into dying minds. The cyberpunk world is oppressive, detailed, and genuinely unsettling in the best way. You piece together the truth of each crime scene by exploring corrupted memories, and the atmosphere is closer to a dark sci-fi film than a standard game. It is a slower experience, but deeply effective, and available cheap on Switch. At number 11, the Ascent is a twin-stick shooter set inside a massive, layered mega-corporation city that has completely collapsed into chaos. The neon environments are some of the most visually impressive in the genre, and the action is fast, explosive, and satisfying, whether you are playing alone or with a friend. You level up your character, unlock new cybernetic abilities, and work your way up through the ruins of a corporate world gone wrong. Game number 12 is Shadowrun Dragonfall Director's Cut, which improves on the first Shadowrun Returns in nearly every way. The story is stronger, the characters are more fleshed out, and the tactical combat scenarios are more varied and interesting. You lead a crew of specialists through a dark cyberpunk Berlin full of moral gray areas, and the choices you make actually matter. It is a longer and richer experience than the first game, and well worth picking up alongside it. Checking in at number 13, Hollow Knight might not be a cyberpunk game in the traditional sense, but if you love the atmosphere of a vast, dark world with deep lore hiding around every corner, it belongs on this list. The Metroidvania gameplay is exceptionally tight. The underground bug kingdom of Hallownest is one of the most realized environments in indie gaming, and the challenge is balanced perfectly between punishing and fair. It is genuinely one of the best games ever made. Number 14 is Dead Cells, the action roguelite that has been refined and expanded with years of free and paid updates into one of the most polished games in the genre. The run-based combat is incredibly satisfying to master. The biomes are varied and visually distinct, and the build variety keeps every single run feeling fresh. If you like tight combat with character progression and a dark, mysterious world to gradually unravel, Dead Cells is essential. At number 15, NieR Automata, the End of YoRHa edition, gives Switch players the full version of one of the most emotionally complex action RPGs ever released. You play as androids fighting a war against alien machines in a post-apocalyptic world, but the story quickly becomes something far stranger and more philosophical than that description suggests. The action combat is fluid and satisfying, and the multiple playthroughs are each narratively distinct in ways that genuinely change how you understand the whole experience. Sitting at number 16, Astral Chain is an action game developed by Platinum Games exclusively for Nintendo platforms, and it is absolutely a showcase title. You play as a police officer in a futuristic city under threat, wielding a chained supernatural creature called a Legion as both a weapon and a partner. The combat is creative and stylish, the world is beautifully designed, and the story has that same energy of a society on the edge that makes Cyberpunk 2077 so compelling. Game number 17 is Deus Ex: Human Revolution Director's Cut, a landmark immersive sim set in a near-future world where cybernetic augmentations are dividing society. You play as Adam Jensen, a security operative navigating corporate conspiracy and human body modification ethics through a mix of stealth, combat, and genuinely meaningful dialogue choices. The thematic overlap with Cyberpunk 2077 is enormous, and the gameplay holds up as one of the most flexible action RPG systems around. Coming in at number 18, Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade arrived on Switch 2 as a complete package with all story content included, and it is a stunning experience in handheld form. The action RPG combat is fast and cinematic, the characters are beautifully realized, and the reimagined Midgar is an enormously detailed industrial city that shares a lot of visual DNA with the neon-soaked cityscapes Cyberpunk fans love. If you have not played it yet, now is genuinely the best time. At number 19, Control is a third-person action game set inside the brutalist headquarters of a secret government agency that has been invaded by supernatural forces. The world building is dense and strange, the abilities-based combat feels powerful and fluid, and the atmosphere of corporate secrecy and reality-bending paranoia creates a tone unlike almost anything else. It shares that same sense of scale and mystery that makes Cyberpunk 2077 so hard to put down. Number 20 is Katana Zero, a stylish neo-noir action platformer where you play as a samurai assassin working through a series of increasingly complex hits in a rain-soaked city. The gameplay involves manipulating time and slicing through enemies in single-hit kills, and the story is told through snappy dialogue choices that actually change how conversations unfold. It is short, sharp and absolutely dripping with cyberpunk style from start to finish. Game number 21 is 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim, which is one of the most ambitious story-driven games on any Nintendo platform. The sci-fi narrative spans 13 different playable characters across multiple timelines, blending mecha combat strategy with an intricate visual novel mystery that consistently surprises. If you loved the way Cyberpunk 2077 built its world through character stories and environmental detail, 13 Sentinels does the same thing in a completely different way. At number 22, The Outer Worlds gives you a satirical open-world RPG in space, where every megacorporation is a villain, and every character has something sharp to say about capitalism and power. The dialogue system is flexible and funny, the build variety is wide, and the RPG loop of exploring, looting, and making choices with real consequences scratches exactly the same itch as Cyberpunk 2077 does, at a fraction of the current price. Sliding in at number 23, Shin Megami Tensei V Vengeance is one of the deepest and most demanding RPGs available on Nintendo hardware. You navigate a post-apocalyptic Tokyo overrun by demons, recruiting monsters to your party and battling through gorgeous but oppressive environments, with a turn-based combat system that rewards careful thinking at every encounter. The atmosphere is dark and dense, and the expanded Vengeance version adds significant new story content that makes it the definitive way to experience the game. Number 24 is Xenoblade Chronicles 3, one of the largest and most narratively ambitious JRPGs ever released on a Nintendo console. The world is vast and full of secrets. The characters are genuinely well-written and emotionally engaging, and the real-time combat system has layers of depth that keep revealing themselves over dozens of hours. If you want an open-world RPG with the scope of Cyberpunk 2077 and a story that goes places you genuinely do not expect, this is the one. Rounding out the list at number 25, Signalis is a survival horror game set in a bleak sci-fi world, where you play as an android uncovering a disturbing truth through oppressive corridors and fragmented memories. The atmosphere is dense and unsettling. The story rewards careful attention to environmental detail, and the whole experience feels like playing through a dark cyberpunk nightmare. It is one of the most critically acclaimed indie games of recent years, and an absolute bargain on the eShop.